Today's guest is just as tall as me, a little bit less handsome. Terry, how you doing, mate?
Sparks flying, sliding around. You used to have to start the bikes with the gear stick out, so they'd be off, and then bang, you kick the bike over, and then you go. I think to a certain extent, I was probably too critical. If you're more than 5'7" or 5'8" now, you're too big. I rode 6 different bikes in '92 and started getting on the gas, and the thing was just like a sledgehammer, just like boom, 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 boom. FIM got wind of it at the end of the year.
And if you talk to people that don't race, you go, "Oh yeah, I could die this weekend."
Well, I've got scars on my elbows. I've degloved my elbow. Yeah. So some of the mechanics and engineers have got bigger egos than the riders. Just honestly, mate, I felt sick. I've hit one of them, used him as a berm, gone across the curbs, jumped across the curbs, hit another one.
By the way, every wrong answer you have to give me 20 quid. So we'll talk that after.
Whenever I die, my ashes have got to be scattered across the room.
Boom, Danny Buchan. What a ride this is, and it is on.
Today's guest is just as tall as me, a little bit less handsome, but he's more successable than me. Terry, how you doing, mate? Welcome to London.
Yeah,
I say that. I know. I
am a Londoner.
I know you actually are. Is that?
Well, actually, I'm not. I'm a man from Kent. I was born in Kent.
I read that.
But that's another story. My sister was London. My mum and dad were London. There's a reason.
You
for
sound
me
like a Londoner.
being born in Kent. I was brought up in London, actually. Yeah. So I used to skateboard all around the West End and all over the place, and Greenwich and stuff. Yeah. Greenwich Park I used to go to. So yeah, London is my kind of home, really.
Because even though I know you, I had to Google some stuff because I actually was saying this the other day to somebody. Like, I think the youth of motorbike racing don't understand what people in the paddock have done. Like, you're one of the names. Like, if you look at even like Jamie Whittam, Roger Marshall, like there's so many guys in the paddock that when you're young, like I'm 29, I'm not young by all means compared to most of them now, but like there's so much experience around the paddock, and even like it took me to be struggling to meet you, and obviously we'll talk about that, but there's so much experience in the paddock, and I feel like when you're on your own in that paddock and you're having a hard time, you don't know that, do you? You're just in your own and you're like, "Oh, I'm having a rubbish time." Like, yeah, you don't really, you just...
There is a lot of experience in the paddock, You're right, and I think Reg Marshall and Neil McKenzie, guys that many top men, and good guys to know as well, and to talk to. I was lucky kind of when I turned pro because Steve Parrish was my team manager, so he was an ex-rider. I could really have a good one-to-one with him from a rider's point of view. I think sometimes it's really important for a rider to have a chat with another rider if they're having troubles or whatever, because they can understand that. They know where they're coming from. Definitely
helped me, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah. I want to talk about, obviously, like I didn't realise that you was British champion. Like kept that one quiet, didn't you?
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, but it's mad, weren't it? Like, you've done some winning, really, haven't you? In your where did the love for motorbike racing come for you? Like, was it family or?
It's a strange one, really, because we didn't have anyone in the family that came from racing bikes. My dad dabbled a bit racing minis and stuff in the '60s, and he was a bit of a rogue, my dad. So he'd grown up, and so when I kind of came into the world, Dad always rode motorbikes. The first motorbike I think he rode was someone had a crash outside his house in Sidcup in Kent, and it was a Triumph Bonneville, and they left it in his mum's garden. And he was 14, and he just jumped on it and rode up the road and was riding around everywhere. But this is a kid that was nicking his mum's car and driving down to the coast with his mate at 14, Which
is all right then, weren't it, as well? People just did that, didn't they? It was
I guess so, I guess so, yeah.
Not everyone, maybe.
No. So, yeah, he's always ridden bikes, my dad. And so I've always seen him on bikes. I used to go on the back of him and everything. And then he used to take me to Brands from about 4 years of age. I used to go to Brands and watch Barry Sheen racing and Paul Smart and all the boys, And I just loved it. I loved every minute of motorcycle racing. And I used to watch it on TV. And I grew up around that. But we didn't actually know anybody that was involved in the racing. So not until my dad's friend, Mark Walsh, who incidentally is a brother of Paul Walsh, the international player for England and Liverpool and everything, football player. Anyway, so I used to go along to some of the race meetings with him. He used to ride 350 LCs, and I used to watch that. And that's how I got into racing. And I used to go up and study at Brands around some of the turns the guys used to win. And I used to think, I'd love to do this, And I'd go to, and every single year, once a year, Dad would take me to Silverstone for the Grand Prix. We'd sleep in the car. We'd get there on Friday night.
Though,
yeah, sleep in the car. I used to get up early in the morning, 6 in the morning, jump out of the car, and I'd run across the track like a little urchin you are, I was about 6 or 7, and I'd go across the track and I'd be around the paddock and I'm watching Sheeny getting out his motorhomes and Caravans then or whatever it was, and Kenny Roberts and Freddie Spencer, all the boys, and just studying what was going on and watching the mechanics and everything. And yeah, so although it wasn't in my DNA, it was something I always desperately wanted to do, right back from when I was at school and they asked me what I wanted to do at the careers office. By the time I was 15, I was riding dirt bikes anyway, and they asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, it's going to be a bike racer, and they just looked at me and laughed, and I said, well, in between I'll be a motorcycle mechanic. So that's what I did. I passed my sitting guilds as a motorcycle mechanic, and then I started racing when I was 17, because you could only start racing when you're 17 then. The funny thing was, the first time I ever went out on the circuit was at Brands Hatch.
And how old was you then?
16. But
health and safety, don't worry about that.
So what?
We've got it covered.
So it turns up there at the at Brands. Every Wednesday used to be a test day there. So the cars used to go out in the morning, and back in the old days, this is. And then in the afternoon, there used to be a bike practice day.
Plenty of rubber down there.
Yeah, grease everywhere.
Yeah, oil.
So I said to my dad, we bought a 250 LC, an old rotten thing, about 300 quid it cost us. And I said, I'd love to get out to, because I was meant to be starting racing at the beginning of 1984, all them years ago, when I was 17, day or two after my 17th birthday. And I said, I'd love to get out to Brands, Dad. So he said, well, let's see if we can do it. So my dad's mate, Mark, who had a license, he said, look, just go up there and take your license and see if you can get out. So I had these old leathers on that I was handed down from the Magnificent Seven stunt team, this motorbike stunt team that had all burn marks all over them and everything, Ket leathers they were. Put my crash helmet. I was riding a road bike then, so I had the crash helmet on, old rotten gloves and stuff. And I went up and I was queuing up in the office ready, and there's an old boy behind signing everybody on.
He was well nervous as well.
Oh man, I was cacking it. You can imagine. I was like 16 years old, and there's all these blokes standing there, and I'm standing there, and
mate.
So I put my finger over this. Stupid, really. I put my finger over the picture of Mark's face.
Yeah.
Right. Went up, all casual. Yeah, mate, how you doing? All right. He said, yeah, just sign here, son. You got your license? Yeah, here you go. Thumb still over the picture. He went, yeah, that's all right. Signed on as Mark Walsh. Off I went.
It's mad funny, isn't it?
I was like, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
I was like, this is brilliant. I've got away with it. And then I rode at Brands for the first time. And it's funny because I don't know if you've heard Stan Stevens.
I know Stan, because Harley's dad, he's a two-stroke legend, weren't he? Yeah.
Two-stroke legend, still know Stan to this day. And he was there. And I was going round, trying to suss out, how to ride this motorbike round. And he looked at my dad. He said, is that his first time out there? And my dad said, yeah. He said, he's going to be fast. He said, if it's his first time riding, he's going to be fast. And that's how it kind of went,
Technically, he was doing stuff probably that he's like, you should be doing that already.
But these are the days you couldn't go and look on YouTube. You couldn't.
No, you didn't know his track, You
didn't have anyone sort of giving you the heads up. We didn't know anyone like that, I mean, Mark said to me, look, just don't do anything silly. Just go out and do
feel
what
your way
you can.
into it type thing,
Yeah, and that's what I did. I got my knee down straight away. I thought, oh, this is all right. And then after about the third session of this track day, or it wasn't a track day, test day, two guys come past me, one either side going into Surtees, it's on the short circuit.
Yeah.
Sparks flying, sliding around, clanging into each other as they changed direction. And I was like, wow, I've got to do that, And that's kind of how it went, So I started off in the 250 LCs, racing 250 LCs, in the murderers class, as they used to call it.
Why is that?
Because it was
savage.
It was the cheapest class you could do. It was oversubscribed, so you have to put your entries in really early, and then you go up to get on the grid. You pick out a peg out of a little hat.
Like the old motocross, we used to do that.
Yeah. So, and I was, you can imagine, I got the first race I ever did. I went to Snetterton, and I got there middle of the night with my dad. Slept in the transit van. Got up, didn't know where the track went. I didn't have a clue where the first corner was even. Right, because I'd never seen it before. Yeah. You couldn't go on the internet or anything.
No, nothing. Yeah,
nothing. So just turn up there. We finished work.
Did you not want to walk the track first, even at night? Just see.
I didn't think about that. I mean, that was like, did you walk the track? I didn't know.
No. So, I did that.
So I just got up and I was so nervous, and with my orange jacket on, and you used to have to start the bikes with the gear stick out, so they'd be off. You'd switch the ignition on, sit there, watch for the green light, and then bang, you kick the the bike over, and then you go. You know,
Why couldn't you have it running
because it's
then?
a production series.
Oh, okay, so they
I
wanted
don't
you to
know.
do that.
It was really dangerous.
Mate, that sounds
So I
majorly
picked out-
dangerous.
I'm like, imagine I'm cacking it. I've been
Yeah.
out for practice for about 6 laps, right? Oh, right-hander.
And now
here,
you're
right-hander.
racing.
Now I'm racing. And I'm in with these guys that are all men. Do you know what I mean? Like
Geezers.
builders.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
big,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
big, strong guys and everything, and out there. And I'm like thinking, oh
Oh
God.
my God, what am I doing?
So I picks out the number from the grid out of this hat,
no.
and I'll get like front row.
Oh no, and you're like,
I'm
no.
like, I just looked at the guy, white face, dropped it back in.
Yeah.
Went, I can't go there. I was like about second to last on the grid. I was like, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And then sat on the grid. I think I finished 7th out of 30 odd. And then thought, do you know what? I can do this. I'm not scared anymore. And then about 3 or 4 race meetings later, I started winning. And I kind of just started
You
winning.
realise
all the
you've
time.
got no fear barrier like most motorbike racers have.
Yeah, but I
just have that-
kind of,
yeah.
like you come from dirt bike background. I was one of the first, I think, when you look at James Whittam, Carl Fogarty, myself, we came from that kind of background of one of the first guys to actually ride dirt bikes before. I'm no good on the dirt bike, I
But
can
you
get
rode
around,
them, yeah.
but I rode them. So we
You
kind of
understand the
had,
movement and like, oh,
Yeah.
it's doing that, it's doing this. I need to,
Yeah.
you have to adapt, don't you, with the motocross quite a lot.
Exactly, and that's where kind of I think I kind of understood, the dynamics of a motorcycle and how they worked and everything, and being a motorcycle mechanic as well, I went to college and stuff and had a bit of an understanding about bikes and about
how it works,
yeah,
how the bike works.
yeah,
and
that's right. I went to Merton Technical College and for a couple of years and passed my sitting guilds, and then it wasn't paying me enough money working in a bike shop, so I ended up going with my dad, working as an electrician, and just going around and doing heating and ventilating and stuff like that, and laying cables and stuff,
Just doing what you needed to do, to earn a
make
few
the money
quid.
to go racing.
But it is mad, like, and yeah, like you say, like the old bikes, like the whole, like the health and safety, like going back to the race. It's like, imagine just having to start your bike and you don't get the right kick, like your back. I used to date a girl actually that used to do the peg thing when I was about, like, talking like 10 or 11 years old. And she used to give me the best.
You need to restructure that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dating, whatever you would say. I don't even know what you'd even say.
Right.
Just think I just used to talk to her just so she'd give me a good peg. And I used to always be up the front. I was like, yes, peg number 3. But, right, I'm going to have to rephrase that pegging situation. Yeah, we're not.
I would.
Yeah, that is, cut that. Yeah, that's, that
Right.
is funny. But then obviously, so when you started there, where did you progress from there? Like I looked, obviously you had to look through your career history because you've done so much winning. Again, talking back at like I'm not understanding what people have done, like the fact that you won a British Championship, mate, that's like mad, isn't it? And it was really common, weren't it, for like your era of riders to be going like World Superbikes, British, back to British, GP. I could never imagine it now. Like I couldn't imagine Jake, like let's just use Jake as his example, and I use him on every podcast, but he's my only other mate really.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine him just going BSB, Moto2, I'm going to go BSB for a year, I've been offered a MotoGP seat, I'm going to go back to World Superbike. It was really quite a common. Do you think that was because the way the bikes were then, or like
I think it was a set of circumstances. I think since we've kind of had the internet revolution and everything else, there's a much more awareness about bike racing now, and I think a lot more people want to do it. So I think there's more people that are actually involved in bike racing now. So it tends to, I may be wrong. I mean, it tends to all the classes are kind of full, and whereas there was a handful of riders. I'm not talking about handful, but I'm talking about probably in the 20 or 30 guys that in the world that ride the superbikes to the best, that as fast as you could actually
to their
be the quickest
individual
down.
like ability on that bike.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some riders are more adaptable than others, and you'll know this now because I mean some riders will be able to jump off. Shaky, for instance, can jump off lots of different bikes and ride them quick.
It knows what he wants the bike to feel like. And
exactly. Yeah. So, but some riders can't. And they're kind of more of a one-trick pony. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that because they tend to be able to do that, ride that certain bike really, really well.
I say that about tyres because do you know like some of the BSB guys go from like BSB to Suzuka, and I've always just ridden what I feel. So if you put a Michelin underneath me, I'd try and ride on a Michelin and just it feels a bit different. Okay, I can't do that. I can do that. But some guys, they just couldn't do it, could they? And when they come back to BSB, it was a real big struggle for them going out and doing like riding on Bridgestones or Dunlops. I was quite lucky when I did it. I only rode on Pirelli, so it was quite the same as what I was used to. But it was like I just found that adaptation to be like quite a normal thing. And I don't know if that's from the motocross background, but that's but like you say, hopping from bike to bike, like
Yeah.
I couldn't. Yeah, like I just.
Honestly, I could tell you. I mean, I used to ride 3 different brands of tyre per year. So I'd be on Michelin in World Endurance with, say, Suzuki. I'd ride Dunlops on Kawasaki in the BSB.
Yeah, that's so
do you know
weird.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes Bridgestones I rode when they first came out, actually, at Suzuka with Daijiro Kato.
Did you just have your bars? Would you go like, or not endurance because you had to have a bit of an all-rounder bike, but if you went from like bike to bike in an individual discipline, would you just go, right, I like my bars like that, I like my levers there, foot pegs?
Yeah, 100%. Especially being tall,
because
you've got to be comfortable on a bike. It's the most important thing. And you know, you to be able to adapt to any different bike, I had to be comfortable. I mean, I'm never comfortable on a bike. I mean, you know, I've always been too big.
Isn't it? Everyone says that. What? How are you so tall? You're not comfortable on anything. Every bike's small for you.
Yeah.
Don't matter what you got on.
That's right. It's always going to be uncomfortable. So you've got to put up with a bit of grief. But you need to get yourself as comfortable as possible on the bike. I think to be able to get your head over the front wheel, to be able to move around. What you lose, especially on the bikes I used to ride, you know, they're 140, 150 horsepower in my day on the 750s. So you have to move your body about a lot, you know, to try and compensate for the lack of speed off the turn and stuff. And
finding grip and things like just trying to get over the back, load the front over, just trying to get that. Yeah, for people listening, it's quite a like almost want this to be a bit of a bridge, but like to the people who don't. But the feeling wise, so basically what Terry's saying is when you're hanging your bum over the rear, effectively you're putting your weight through the rear tyre, which is giving you more grip, isn't it?
Yeah,
it creates other problems.
Or if you're leaning back, exactly. If you're leaning back slightly, you know, and then it starts wheeling, and you start leaning forward and moving your shoulder forward, and just being mobile on the bike is really, really important.
It has such a big impact on the finishing of the corner or the entry to the corner or however you're trying to benefit, doesn't it? Really,
exactly. So what you lose on the actual punch off the turn. So top speed, I was always really good because I could get myself tucked in, and you know, normally it'd be okay, and my top speed figures were okay, but it was just getting there was the problem. So what I'm trying to do is to compensate with that. We've moved myself on the bike and trying to get as much and changing direction. I could change direction normally a lot quicker than a smaller rider. You know,
so benefit. Yeah, that's what I say.
Yeah. So what you had to do was enable yourself to change direction really quick, but not to rush the corner, get on the edge of the tyre and then not come off the corner, because you can compound the problem. So you have to really analyse it and understand that, you know. But yeah, it kind of it went okay. I mean,
was that a strength for you, the analysing? Was you an analytical rider? Like, would you say you was quite? Because to get to any level of sport in whatever you do, like if it's football, if it's cricket, you have to be. I think you have to be analytical in the way that you look at yourself, because if it's not going. If you're having a rubbish weekend, you're like, that's all right, that's all right, that's a good weekend, that. You're never going to grow, are you, and get better? And to be British champion or world champion, whatever you may have done, or you have to be critical with yourself, don't you? And
I think to a certain extent, I was probably too critical with myself. And so I wasn't a happy-go-lucky rider, you know, not like you are, for instance. It's whenever, you know, I've worked with you before, Danny, and you've got a really good attitude around racing because you're happy-go-lucky, you're positive and everything like that. I used to kind of walk around with my head down a little bit and sort of a bit too serious and stuff. And I think if I went back to my racing, that's what I would probably try to change. Try to enjoy the moment a little bit more and enjoy actually being there and realise how lucky I was to actually be there and fortunate I was to be doing that job.
It is hard though, mate, because when you're in that moment, when it's going wrong, you just go, this is the worst job. Like, I don't want to be here. Like, when it's going bad,
terribly.
It's so, because you just feel like the weight of the world is watching you, which they are. And even if your fan base are on your side, your fans are on your side anyway. But you just feel this like, I can't do it right now, and I don't know why. And then it's really hard. And I think it's quite important. Like, obviously, through that time when I had that, I started working with you, and I had met Steph that year, so I had quite a cool support circle. But bloody hell, the mental stress that you put yourself on as a rider, isn't it? Like October, November time, like off season is the best because you don't think about it, do you? But it's that pressure all the time, isn't it? And
yeah, I think what happens, you turn up to the race meeting and you are the end product. Yeah. So
the investment, the money, the sponsors, everyone's put that money in.
You go to a GP, you go to a World Superbike race, you go to a World Endurance race. You've got 40 people being part of that team, getting you there, and you are then all of that build up for the whole week. For instance, for a World Endurance race, you've got and there's a 24-hour race ahead of you. You're starting the race. It's a lot of responsibility, yeah. But you know what? when I look back on it now, I look at it like that. But when I was there, I was like, yeah, do this.
I'm doing
no
my
problem.
job. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll have this. Am I worried about crashing? I don't give a F, you know?
No, I'm not. I'm here to do my job, and that's it.
That's what I'm doing. And that's how I used to treat it. When you think back, when I look back on it, I think, bloody hell, you know, it was a lot of pressure. And some riders turn up to that, jumping on that bike, and they'll have that pressure. And that's where it goes kind of either wrong or they make mistakes or something like that, you know. So I think that you've got to be a selfish type of person, of course.
100%. All of us are.
You know,
we have to be.
Yeah, you have to be. And you have to know what you can do, what you can't do. And I think that it's really important that you're confident, you know, in your own ability. And I think that's the biggest part of it all. And in the world endurance races, for me, I was always on one or two of the best teams, Kawasaki or Suzuki. So I knew that the bike was going to be good, especially the Kawasaki was always the strongest bike engine-wise out there. So you could get through the traffic a bit better. You know, the Suzuki handled a little bit better, but the team was slightly better than the Kawasaki team. So it all balanced itself out, you know. But I knew that the team were in my corner and they were supporting me 100%. So all I've got to do now is do the best I can.
It's like that, isn't it? Like, you just going to work. Like, my sister will be like obviously my family have grown up with me racing bikes and it's been normal, but my sister will be like, are you nervous? And I'm like, I'm going to work. Like, it's no different to me going to a meeting to sell office furniture. I don't treat it any different. Obviously, there's different risks and stuff involved, but you trust yourself. You've done your preparation. You're
professional.
You're there. Yeah, you're there. You've done. You've got. This is what the team's invested in. But it is funny because, like you say, like everyone's invested in. Imagine if you like woke up Sunday and was like, I'm not racing. Like,
well, that did happen to me actually one time. Yeah. But we'll go on to that later on. But you're right. You're right.
Like,
you know, because you're confident in your ability.
But you don't see it. Yeah, you don't see that.
And the more years that go by, the more confident you get.
And the more relaxed you get.
More relaxed you
that
get.
Way,
yeah. But you can't you get to the precipice. You can't let yourself drop over the other side because you end up then. I think where I got to a point where I was kind of just going through the motions the last couple of years of riding, you know, and that's why I stopped because I was honest with myself. I just thought, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. But I always wanted to finish when I was fast. That's what has always been in my mind, you know. I think I won the World Championship the last year I raced, and then I think I finished second in the Japanese Championship race with Yoshi Miura and all Japanese Championship race at Motegi, and that was it. Canned it. Never.
How did they look at you like out there? Because obviously, like when I went to Suzuka, they were sort of like, "Oh my God, you are big." Yeah, but how do you think that impacted some of the opportunities you may have got in your career being so tall? Because
I don't think with the Japanese it did. I think, but in generally it did.
My view is like, if you're putting in the times, if you can bang in the race results and you can put the lap times down, why wouldn't you get given a chance? But I honestly, I don't know if to this day it hinders me, but I think to myself, like, yeah, like if someone said, would you ever get a GP ride? I'm too old now, but I'd say no, I wouldn't because I'm too tall. But
if you're more than 5'7" or 5'8" now, you're too big.
But if you could put the laptop, for me as a team boss, mate, I'd be like, look, if the guy's got work ethic, if the guy's putting the effort in, if he's eating right, if he's doing his right training, if he's turning up on time, if he's doing all these, ticking all these boxes, he's too tall, sorry, no, red flag. I just think like, yeah, I don't know, to me, like, I think with BSB we're quite lucky because the circuits, what we may lose in a straight line, we gain in the corners anyway. But do you think some of the chances, like obviously you had such a good year with the MotoGP seats and the rides that you had at GP level, like why didn't you get a full-time seat? It's not like you were scratching around at the back, was it?
No, I think it was close. I mean, I was test riding for Lucky Strike Suzuki anyway. I think it was 1995. I raced the bike in 96, but in 1995, in the 95, Gary Taylor from Lucky Strike approached me and said, look, we need a test rider. And at that time, talking about riding different bikes, I was riding, I think, 5 or 6 different bikes a year.
Wow.
I had a year where I was only doing world endurance and with Kawasaki, and I was free to do anything else. So it was quite good, really. And then, so I can't remember which bikes I rode.
That's mad, though. Like, even just getting on a Lucky Strike GP bike to test and then going back to another bike. But that's what I'm saying. Imagine that now. Like, yeah, I'm a Ducati test rider there. I race BMW there. I'm actually doing the Suzuki on a Yamaha. Oh, yeah. And just doing, like, you just couldn't imagine it, could you?
Sometimes. In 92, I rode,
what bike you ride.
I rode 6 different bikes in 92. 6 different bikes. So I was riding with Cole Fogarty in the World Endurance Championship with Kawasaki on the F1 bike. And then in British Championship, I rode the Norton, the rotary Norton. Okay, I mean, it's the most different bike you've
because
ever
the way
ridden
they
in your
deliver
life.
power is completely different. It's not even like
Everything's
it's the
different.
same just sort of engine. in that.
Everything you know about riding a motorcycle when you ride the Norton, you just throw out the window. You start again almost. It really is that different.
Oh my gosh.
So I was riding that. Then I rode a Ducati 888 in World Superbikes for a few races. I raced, what else did I race? A Kawasaki in World Superbikes. My own Kawasaki, actually, which I built in World Superbikes. So I qualified on the front row at Donington, believe it or not, against all the factory bikes. It was crazy. And then, what else did I ride? A Yamaha in Mexico for the last round of the World Superbikes in Mexico.
Who did your levers that year?
Kashitani, I think. Yeah.
Fuming. That, but let's talk about. So when you first got, like, as a rider, you work your ass off to be MotoGP rider. Do you remember the first time you got to see the bike and was you like, I can't believe I'm getting to ride this?
I do.
Because that feeling, like,
yeah,
it's like
I got a phone call from Gary Taylor, and they were based at Edenbridge, and I was up the road at just like 7, 8. So
yeah.
So he called me, said, "Look, Terry, can you come down to the office? And I want to have a chat with you about something." And so I went there and had a chat with him, and then he said, "Look, we want to run a test bike." So I said, "Okay." He said, "Would Kawasaki allow you to ride?" And I said, "Well, yeah, because I've stipulated with Kawasaki that I'm open to be able to ride any other bikes during the year, because I was only doing World Endurance with them then." So he said, "All right, great." So I turned up at Brno. They flew me across to Brno to do the first test. I turned up there. I had me I think Taichi levers there from World Endurance from the ATAL from the year before, something like that. So I turns up there, bike sitting there. Maybe it's like it's Kevin's old bike. Yeah, Kevin's old bike.
Yeah, it's just madness,
so
isn't it?
Sitting there, and we had was testing suspension. So they said, "Look, we're going to run the standard suspension at the moment. We're going to run the bike on setting number 2, which was a less powerful setting.
Yeah,
so it's
right,
probably
mate.
putting about 180 brake horsepower out.
Setting 2, mate.
It
Go
weighed
on.
130 kilos.
Yeah.
And so they started the bike up. I went out on it, and then the bikes were putting out about 140, 150 horsepower.
But
super
130 kilos, that's still
bikes. But it was putting out about 180 on full
lick mode.
time. It's 190 odd.
Oh my
So I goes off, rides it out like a pussycat. As I rode it out,
just shift.
don't
let it rev.
And it's lovely. I thought, oh, it's so light. It's like a 125. It's like so light.
Don't know what the fuss is about.
And then I come out of turn 1. Bruno.
Yeah.
So I come out of turn 1, and it goes. It's quite a long turn. Then off through the left kink, and started getting on the gas, and the thing was just like a sledgehammer. Just like. Boom, 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 and just flying down the straight.
Wow, yeah.
It was immense. And I'm like, whoa, carbon brakes. It doesn't want to stop.
Quick shifters? You would have had quick shifters anyway, yeah.
Quick shifter. And then started riding it. And the thing was great. I mean, it was awesome, but he just wanted to send you to hospital. That's all he wanted to do.
I can't imagine rolling into a corner on a 2-stroke. Like
so
the old Aprilia. It's just like, bum.
So you'd be like, it's just ready. It's just going, oh, I dare you.
Touch me.
It's like,
Touch me.
Off the turn again.
Touch me now, go on.
Yeah. So, but it was a really good experience. And then we ran, I had my own electronics guy. And then we ran adaptive suspension, electronic suspensions, the first electronic suspension ever. This is 95, so you can imagine. So
I bet she was ropey.
You could
Actually, right.
develop. We had solenoids on the compression and then solenoids on the rebound, and we kind of developed it as we went along. And Pete, my electronics guy, was great. Come from F1, and we just worked on this bike. We got to the point where it was really good, because the problem with this bike, with the Suzuki, was it used to fall through the rear, coming off the turn when you get all that torque and everything coming through it. It used to fall through or spin up, and you needed that grip. But what we could do with the solenoid was actually stiffen the back of the bike up as you come off the turn, as you sat up, so you could
when
actually.
It started to drop, you could
so
get it
when you
stiffer.
started understeering and couldn't complete the corner, the thing would just hold it up a little bit more and help stop it wheeling
without losing anything off the turn.
Probably similar to the shapeshifters they got now.
Yeah, the new ones.
And it would just fire the thing off the turn. Anyway, FIM got wind of it at the end of the year, canned it. We got it to the point where Darryl Beattie was obviously the rider, and Scott Russell were the two riders that were racing the bikes, and they were at least as quick on the electronic stuff, so we knew it was getting really good. And then FIM found out, canned it. So that was it. So,
how was he as a teammate, Scott Russell?
Scott, yeah, really good. Yeah, really, we're good mates, you know. And we were teammates in '94 on the Muzzy Kawasaki, and then but I knew him before that anyway. So yeah, he's a bit of a wild boy, you know. That's for sure.
But it's funny because, like, for me, like when I come from motocross, I didn't understand road racing.
Yeah.
It was just because I had too many injuries at motocross. We went to the tarmac. We called it road racing. Obviously, the real road racing is the TT and that. But yeah, we sort of come over, and it was like I didn't know any of the history of racing. So like, as I get older now, I'm sort of starting to look back at like watching some of your races, like Hodges races, just all like Scott Russell and like Slight and all them, and it's like, oh mate, it's mad, isn't it? Like, and I look at that now, and I'm just like, bloody hell. But yeah, like, did you take a lot from Scott? Like when you was teammates with Scott, was it like, because obviously you was teammates with him in the Suzuki. What year would that have been?
Suzuki, we were teammates in '94 and '95. '95 was Suzuki, and '96 with Suzuki with the Lucky Strike bike, number 9 bike, and then the 2 years before that, '94, with Kawasaki. It was good. We're kind of, Scott's tall as well. So he's not as tall as me. He's probably 6 foot.
What are you, 6'3"?
6'2.5".
I'm saying, yeah.
So we were kind of similar riding styles, not the same, but similar. And with the data and everything there, you know, we could kind of compare things. And one of the things with Scott is he could switch on. You know, I'd have to sit there and kind of run everything through my mind before I went out and then go, okay, right now I'll get on the bike and then I'd go. Whereas we used to have heart rate monitors when they were first using them then, and his heart rate monitor would be like nice and low, and all of a sudden, right, yeah, okay, the bike's being pushed out, and it just go boom, and it just go up. He just like almost about to switch on.
It's mad.
And in my opinion, Scott is one of the best riders around ever. It's just that he didn't apply himself fully.
And if he did, you think he would have been dangerous?
I mean, he put a lot into his racing,
yeah.
but if he put that little bit of extra more, a little bit extra, I think he could have been another McDowan.
And it's funny because people listening might go, oh, how do you define a good teammate? Like for me, with a good teammate, like I had a really good relationship with Andy Irwin, and it was like we left it all on the track. Like if we battled each other and smashed into each other, it was fine. We respected that and we wanted to beat each other, but we wanted to help each other in the way of moving forward as a team. Like if I had a problem, and if you got that problem, no, all right, it's just me. We need to look at what we're doing. Yeah, I have got that problem. Right, well, let's work collectively to try and improve the package. And that's, for me, like defining a good teammate would be that, you know, like I don't need to hate people to beat them, you know, I want to do my job and do it the best I can. But some people you just can't be teammates with. And it's like you look at the Lorenzo and it was Lorenzo and Rossi, weren't it? Remember when it was like, when they literally put the divider up in the garage? And I just think to myself, like if there's an extra rider out there, just leave it out on the track. And would you say the same thing? Yeah,
I think sometimes, I mean, you have a collision with your teammate or whatever and something goes wrong and you have a bit of an argument and all of a sudden you can just, you know, you have a bit of an argument if you can switch off.
Don't hurt each other, do you?
No, but some people just take umbrance on it. And I think I've always gotten all right with my teammates, you know, always. And
you're a nice guy, aren't you? But was you on track? Was you an arsehole?
No. Yeah, I was.
Because actually,
I was horrible on track.
Was you? Yeah, no. But you have to be, didn't you?
Yeah.
I'm taking so many leaves out of these podcast books, mate. I'm telling you, I'm going to be a right arsehole this year. Watch me. Buchan's loose. He's smashing everyone off.
I think every rider can be a bit naughty whenever they want to, you know.
But you have to say, mate, this is my job. The team are paying me to do this. I've got to win, and that's it. I'm not going to let matey just dilly-dally around in front because I think it's better. Like you've got to just hang it out, haven't you? And
or you might just think, well, I've got to make a desperate move here because
I've got to get through.
I've got to get through somehow, you know. I think that there's some people make more desperate moves than others, and you get to know them, and also I think you get to know certain riders that will slam you and then just go down with you if they don't care. So you tend to give them a little bit of you give them a little bit of a wide berth perhaps. But I think there's normally generally, I think more so years ago, generally more of an unwritten rule, you know, that says like, okay, you can rub each other. Excuse the expression.
We've got to stop this and pegging. This is getting out of hand, mate. This is.
You can bang into each other.
Yeah,
and that's another sort of dodgy one. But you can bang into each other, but let's keep it steady. No one wants to get hurt there. No one wants to see. It doesn't matter if you can't stand somebody. You don't want to see him get hurt. You know, that's the last thing you want to see out there because you're all in the same boat. Really, you're all risking everything to do racing a sport you love and to make a living.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? It's because you sit there and you go, like, yeah, like racing. Like I used to think, oh man, this is it. This is my life. And then you meet, like I met Steph. Obviously, you had kids, and it changes your sort of. You actually realise how insignificant it is in the grand scheme of things. But when you're involved, it's your job, and it's like, this is it. Like, God, I've got to win. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And it's quite a crazy life, really, isn't it?
Bit of an analogy. Whenever I'm speaking to any riders, sometimes they get so overwhelmed with everything. And I've probably done it with you, Dan. And we've sat down and I've said to look. Every Sunday, not everybody in the world is watching this race, right? There's people out there cutting their grasses, washing their grass, washing their cars, whatever, doing whatever, okay? It's not, the world doesn't revolve around it, right? It's important to us, of course it is, but sometimes you have to take a bit of a back step and you have to have a break away from it. And I think it's nice to spend a bit of time with your family sometimes, and you can still train hard, you can still do all the business-like stuff you need to do around racing, but it's there is life outside racing as well, and I think it's quite important to understand that.
Yeah, and I think that's where, for me personally, having the business side of things, because I used to be, when I was just fully racing bikes and didn't have the business stuff, I was so like in the week, like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, and I was so like just so wanting to just do well that it was almost draining me before I got to a weekend. And then once I kind of got my I've got obviously like the furniture like business set up, and it just. I could switch off because all of a sudden I've got this other drama of trying to provide furniture to people, and that took me away from the racing. And when I went racing on the Thursday, obviously like I'm doing my regular training and stuff anyway, but I found when I went to racing, it was like, boom, this is it now, and I could switch off, and I was so focused wholly on racing that it changed the way it changed the way I race, and I felt like my results started getting better, and I started to see things in a different way, and that really helped me mentally. But obviously. And it just changed the way I raced. And then I was like, oh, this is actually all right. I can switch off. Me and Mason was at Alton Park one year. He was going out. I was going out. We was trying to sign off a quote for a big job. And he was like, have you got your laptop? I was like, yeah, mate. And we was like, oh. And he was like, how'd you get on that session? I was like, second. What about you? He was like, yeah, I was quickest GP2 bike wheel. I was like, all right, I'm out in a minute. And it was quite funny, but I wouldn't like doing that every weekend. I
think people are different.
Yeah.
Certain people wouldn't be able to do that. They, some people like to be really intense. And I think not every rider's the same. You have to understand that. And I think that I wouldn't work the same way when I work with you, for instance, if I work with Leon Haslam, with any other riders that I've worked with, it would there's a different, it's kind of a psychology game as well, isn't it? And understanding how that person ticks, I think that's really important. And everybody is different. And that goes along with bike setup as well, because you can have two bikes, exactly the same bikes, and have a complete different setup, yet you're within tenths of each other.
It's crazy.
Out on the track. So that just goes to prove that it's a feeling thing for bikes, and an understanding and being kind of really comfortable with your setup, with your surroundings and your team around you. That's really, really important.
I asked Steph yesterday, I said, what got Terry in tomorrow? What do you reckon I should ask him? Like, give me a question. And she actually said to me, find out what he was like, what he found, how he found it working with you. She said, she actually said you're an effing nightmare. Me personally,
I can't be honest.
Nightmare. But at that time, I probably was. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
To be fair, mate.
You can be honest here now. Give the listeners some honest feedback, mate. Don't be nice to me.
Yeah, never again.
Yeah, you're a tosser, Dan.
I'd kind of. It's a joy working with you, mate. I've got to be honest. It's you're pretty laid back compared to a lot of people that I work with, and positive, and I kind of enjoyed it. Always enjoyed working with you. I'm not just.
That year was hard. No disrespect to you, Steve, if you're listening, but we had some battles, didn't we? Me and Wilf.
Yeah,
we ended up coming to the agreement. I was like, mate, I don't want to race there no more. And he was like, I said, instead of you wasting your money and me wasting my time, let's just go our separate ways. And he literally was like, all right, mate, cool. And that was it. We had that respect for each other, and we went our separate ways. But
but do you know what? He's grown up enough to understand that.
Yeah.
And I think that team, each team goes on a journey. Each rider goes on a journey, and you learn as you go along. And I think Steve learned a lot from that. I think you did. I think the team, the Motor Rapido team, is a great team. It's a great team.
Done well last year.
Yeah, they're one of the best. But it's part of that learning curve.
The journey, isn't it?
The journey that you go through to be the best team.
God, mate,
one of the best
racing,
teams.
Isn't it? It's like, how many times did you have in your career where you was like, I'm done? and then you're like, oh God, because it's bloody hard, isn't it? Like there's not even the fact of like, oh, I've got this opportunity, that opportunity, oh, that one's gone, oh, I've got this one, and it's like the emotional roller coaster. Like I think it's good because it teaches you resilience in your life. Like outside of racing, when I face difficult decisions or there's things happening, I'm a very resilient person, and whether that's the way I've been brought up, I don't know, but I find that the big takeaways from what I've learned in racing is like the resilience you need to be successful. Like I've been successful in little ways. I've not won a big championship, but the resilience you need, BSB, and like the overcoming, like I'm having a really bad weekend, I'm having a bad weekend, and then all of a sudden you just wake up on race day and you go, right, am I going to let that weekend like this define how my weekend's going? No, I'm not. I'm going to pull my socks up, made some change to the bike, go out and win. It's like that, innit? And it's like you can never sort of give up, can you, with racing? And it's the resilience is such a thing. And do you think you've took that away as well in what you do outside of racing? And
I think resilience is important. I really do. I think that's what motorcycle racing you got kind of gain in life. You when you understand what it's like to be a motorcycle racer, it kind of gets you ready for life in general.
Real life,
for sure. For sure. There's no doubt about that. But because it's a tough scenario to be in. You know, it's not like being a tennis player, for instance. It's a one-man sport, isn't it? Unless you're playing doubles, obviously, and everything's on you. But the worst that can happen in tennis, you'll pull a hamstring, or you might break a small bone in your foot, or whatever it is. And of course, there's lots of pressure under it, all the same pressures and everything. But
different outcomes.
The difference is, if you get it wrong, the outcome is you're into a barrier. And it's still one of the few things in the world you can actually do, which is still desperately dangerous. I mean, when you think about it, when you're racing around on a 200 miles an hour motorcycle, that at any time you can get hurt. And so you've always got that in the back of your mind. But if it's something that you naturally do and you love and you're confident about doing, you do it without thinking about it. You can't think about that when you're doing it. But everybody knows
it's there.
Sitting on the grid. Of course you do. Yeah.
And if you talk to people that don't race, you go, oh yeah, I could die this weekend. But I'm not being an idiot. I'm not trying to be brave and show you how stupid or brave I am. That is literally reality we face. And if you hide away from that reality, where are you hiding? Do you know what I mean? It's what it is, isn't it?
I mean, you have to be pretty unlucky to seriously get yourself hurt. I mean, especially nowadays with the airbags and everything, and all the kit and everything. I mean, back when Sheeny and Steve Parrish used to race, I've raced at hay bales before.
Tyres.
But they're leathers. They never used to have any body armour in them,
Yeah, they actually look like that, didn't they? It's like you're wearing a coat with like your...
Well, I've got scars on my elbows. I've degloved my elbow, and it's just gone completely degloved it, where I've just not had any, in the early days. I mean, I've probably, some of the worst accidents I've ever had was in the early days when I was riding the LCs and in club racing, where I just had the levers were just like leather.
With your jeans on.
That was it, yeah. And the burns and everything, and the holes everywhere and all that. So scars for life.
And how was it going from obviously being a racer, professional motorbike racer, and then managing professional motorbike racers? Because obviously you went into team management. How different? Because all of a sudden you go from being the person that's just, you've got to just focus on doing your own stuff, and then all of a sudden you've got, in a team, you've got different personalities, you've got different rider personalities, you've got different management. Oh, my mate's missus has dumped him and all this, and and you're all trying to put this together to go racing. Like, how hard was that? Like, just getting everyone to work together.
Sometimes you feel like you're a bit of a dad, in your team.
That is what you are, though, isn't it? Really, the role.
Sometimes, but and everybody's different again. Mechanics. I mean, some of the mechanics and engineers have got bigger egos than the riders. So it's trying to manage it all. And basically what you're doing is you're putting out fires constantly. Something will go wrong here. You try and sort it out. You try and sort that out.
Something over there's going.
But I think generally, I've never had enough time when I've ran a team where I've had it for 3 or 4 years, and you can get the right people around you at the right time, and then you get to the point where you're just confident that everything's going to work, and it possibly becomes easier then. I've never been in that situation, but you're putting out fires, constantly putting out fires, trying to understand the rider, trying to understand what he's thinking, trying to keep him upbeat, trying to, it's a balancing act constantly. You're spinning plates everywhere. So it's good. I mean, it's about the sport, and that's what it's about. It's about the love of racing, and all the aggravation that goes around racing, which is a massive amount. And
huge,
a lot of the kind of fans don't see that today, but when you've got your rider and he's winning races for you, or as a sort of part of management, for instance, work with Shaky Byrne as bit of management with him as a personal side.
Gino,
with Gino, and a few other riders, and you kind of, when you see him win, it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling as a team manager, or whatever it is, and it's about the sport, and it's still exciting, and that's what I love about it. I was watching the World Superbikes the other day, and it kind of just watching the riders go through the turns and sliding around, and it immediately takes you back, and you're like, no, not because I want to ride again and race again, because I'm past all that, but it kind of just makes you get that little snippet, and it might be a race at Suzuki or whatever, when you just dug your knee in a bit of the dirt and you've peppered someone behind you with stuff like that. Just all them little tricks that you do.
Lost.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it doesn't slow him down, but it makes you feel a bit better.
Yeah, you feel great,
doesn't it? So all them little things sometimes brings you back. Or maybe it might be at the boulder, or at 2:00 in the morning, something happened, having a big front end moment at 130 mile an hour,
And you're out on slicks and it's that hazy mist that's just wetting the track a little bit, and you're going, oh my God, am I going to make it into this corner?
Exactly.
Made that one.
And going down the straight, where it's rained and I'm on slicks and I'm caught out on slicks, and you can't hold full throttle down the straight because the thing is just just sideways and spinning up, but you've got to get it back to the pits as quick as you possibly can.
Otherwise you're going to let the whole team down.
But how much do you actually risk?
Because
you could finish your whole race for all your teammates and the whole team, and that's what I miss. Then that competition part of it is what I miss.
And that's something that's in us, isn't it, from a young age? Probably when you was like 6, looking at the racing, you want to be in there, don't you? Yeah. But the rider management thing, going back to that, obviously you win together, you lose together. Obviously you was managing Gino when he had his accident. How horrible! You feel it just as his family feels it, because it's that you're that involved, aren't you? Was obviously. We know he's doing a bit better now. Obviously, he's doing a lot better now, which is great. But at that time, it must have been a horrible feeling.
You know what? It was a sick feeling. I've watched Gino grow up as a kid. I've known Gino's father from before Gino was born. So I've seen Gino grow up and come through the ranks and motocross and everything. And the guy can ride a motorbike. There's no doubt about that. He's a fantastic rider. And, we approached Gino. I've always stayed in touch with Gino, and he approached me a while back about world endurance, and I said, look, let's talk to a few teams, and we managed to secure him a ride with HRC, which was a dream job.
Imagine, mega.
Dream job, full factory rider, and I just felt like it was his kind of destiny now. He's getting a little bit older now, and to try and carve out a legacy for himself, world champion, whatever it was, the big events, the real big events, like Le Mans and the Boulder and everything, the events that I love so dearly, and to get him into that team, and it was just
a big effort, really, from everyone, isn't it? It's a mega thing,
and he deserved it, because he was, he was riding so well, and then to see the testing going so well, went out to watch him test, and it went so good, and then Spa and everything. I was at Spa and stuff, and Le Mans, and then to actually wake up on a Sunday morning, and I said to my wife Donna, I said to her, Gino's not text me, right? I'm like, I know he's a bit tight because he doesn't want to put his data on or whatever out there because it costs him much money, but I want to know where he's getting on,
Yeah.
So I was ready to have a moan at him, so I sent him a text. Hey, you haven't.
Was this all weekend?
Him.
You ain't spoke to him all weekend?
No, he hadn't spoke to me for a while, so he'd obviously been busy and everything anyway, and I understand that, but I kind of thinking it's unusual for him,
something's weird here,
So. Sunday morning, I didn't think anything of it, and I thought, well, I'll switch on the TV and see what's going on. I think there was some other racing going on as well. And I don't know, 7 in the morning or whatever, and I got my phone, I put it on in the living room, put it on the table, and switched the telly on. I'm sitting there for probably 10 minutes having a cup of tea or whatever, and then I looked at my phone and I see I had an email from HRC and a text from HRC.
Is that a strange thing? Was that something that's not happened?
Well, yeah, I've been dealing with HRC while I was doing his contracts and everything, but normally it would be the team directly speaking to me. Then I had a text from one of the team members as well, and I'm looking at this thinking, nothing from Gino. So I pick it up, and I've got to say to you, when I was reading this text, Gino's had a serious accident. He's been helicoptered off to hospital, and he's got head injuries. And honestly, mate, I felt sick. I felt sick reading this. It's the last thing I ever expected, to actually to actually.
Yeah, you think a little shitbag ain't messaged me?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm really
but you
keeping
know,
my
this was
bollocking,
unfolding where it was,
later
yeah,
on,
yeah.
So to read this, it really did. It choked me. It really choked me. And I spoke to Donna, and I'm like, and then I called one of the Japanese guys, and then spoke to a couple of guys actually at the track. Leon Camia called me, and then I spoke to a couple of guys in the team, and something just a really unusual crash, and I'm like, I didn't know what to do. I felt helpless, So I called David, who didn't know his father, and just said to him, "Look, Dave, Gino's had a quite bad accident. We need to try and sort something out. It's kind of the COVID problems times."
Getting back out there.
I said, I'll fly out there. I'll fly out there. But it turns out that only family could fly out, and so David and his wife Isabella, Gino's wife Isabella, flew out there, and then stayed by his side, and his family's been fantastic. They've been so supportive, and
you need that. That's what you win together, you lose together. It's like that, and if you need that.
Yeah, it was a real choker. I'm talking to Donna, and I said, he's finally got the ride he deserved, and everything, and now this has happened. So, but on a positive side, I mean, it was touch and go whether he was actually going to survive it or not, and everything. But on the positive side, he's worked so hard. When you consider it was only last August,
he's fit anyway. I've spent a load of time training with Gino anyway.
He's so bulletproof anyway. That he's been lucky that as far as he's trained so hard, so strong, and he's got through this really well. Come out the other side. And
he's on a training camp before, and he's my foot's hurting. I had screws in there, and this is rubbish. He's going all this.
Pointing out
I was going, mate, stop being a pussy. You'll be fine. Just put a plaster over it. And then he's like, when I get back to the UK, we was in Spain, we've done 3 months. He's like, when I get back to the UK, I'm going to get it x-rayed. He said, because it ain't right. He said, it's really hurting me.
We have to have a special boot,
mate. He got bloody out there and the screw had undone itself. So it was coming through the skin nearly and it was rubbing. And I was just saying, you're a pussy, mate. Sort yourself out. Come on, we're on the rowing machine. And we actually pushed each other quite hard. And it was quite a funny dynamic. But yeah, he was a tough boy. And, mate, I think you have to be racing bikes. But it's hopefully we'll see him back fit, and we're going to have to get him on the podcast. Gino, if you listen to this, mate, we'll fly you in, get you in.
Yeah,
it'd be good. It'd be good to have a chat with him because obviously he's done some racing.
Funny, I was talking to him on the way here before I jumped on the train coming into London, and Gino was. I'd been talking about the podcast and everything, but having a chat with him, he's already been out on his dirt bike.
Yeah, good.
He's kind of thinking about doing a track day. So I said, look, if we do a track day, I'll come out and we'll have a run round and.
Just so you say you can smoke him up when he's rusty.
Yeah, I won't be doing that, that's for sure. So, step-by-step process, really. We've got to take our time. I don't want to rush it. We just want to But, he's getting much better. You can have a really good conversation with him now.
Yeah.
He's really on it, and he's desperately missing riding motorbikes.
100%, mate. You're going to, aren't you? And it's like to have to stop because of an injury. Like, you stopped because you was like, I'm over it type thing. I had Tozand on last week and he was like... stopped at 29 because of an injury, and he said I just didn't.
Shaky.
Yeah. Do you know what? Me and James sat here before the podcast, and we started listing loads of names, and it's like bloody hell, yeah, like some of the champions that have had to stop racing because of injuries. The list is actually bigger than you think. I don't know if I've never actually seen a list, but somebody out there could probably compile a list of professional riders that have had to stop because of injury, and it's like that competitiveness in you, and you all have stopped. It's like It's it's not something. I mean, I'm slow, so slow people don't seem to injure.
Slow. You're not slow.
But I'm going to take you on to the next part of the podcast. Yep. Obviously, we're doing now episode 10. I've been asking for weeks now about getting a name for this. So it's a track review, but we still haven't got a name, guys. We're going to get a name. It's just called a track review at the minute. It sounds really boring. Track review. Okay. So, what's your favourite track? All the tracks you can pick. Spa.
100% Spa.
What's your most memorable moment? And it can be anything. Of Spa.
At Spa.
What's the rouge like? I bet that's just...
My most memorable moment is during qualifying, actually. I don't know if we've got enough time, but Brian Morrison was my teammate, and we were on the factory Kawasaki. And to get a lap in at Spa is really difficult. When you got another 70, 65 riders out there or whatever on the circuit, although the circuit's long...
to get a perfect lap.
And remember, the days we used to run with Dunlop, they had a 1 lap tyre. So a qualifying tyre was 1 lap.
So you literally into the hairpin like this is...
Yeah.
Well, you'd go across the start finish into the hairpin, then you so that's the game on.
That was it.
Yeah,
Mate,
you can't let go. If there's a back marker
And
in
you
the
had
way,
one.
you're going through them.
You had one. You had one. That was it. So you
Yeah.
didn't have two or anything like that. So you had two for the meeting, but one you would kind of pre-test. Before.
One tyre for one lap.
One lap.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I
Yeah.
thought you meant-
So you
yeah.
start off on a race tyre or whatever, and get yourself up to speed, and kind of try and work out, or the team would try and work out when everyone came in, and you trying to work it, but you never get it right, can you? No. So it goes. Brian's out before me. I'm out in the middle. He's out for the first session. Does a time. Bang.
I thought Brian Morrison was a famous singer. Sorry.
All right, okay. Brian Morrison
not
was
be.
a twice world endurance championship.
be,
Yeah,
might-
Scottish rider,
Yeah.
but he's obviously before your time. But a really good guy.
Yeah,
Brian.
sorry. That's the ADHD in me. See, guys, it's ticking a box. All right, I'm sorry about that. Right, carry on. We was
Okay,
there.
no,
Go
that's
on, let's
fine
go.
because
Come on.
Brian's
Yeah.
been not racing for a long time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Brian says he puts his lap time in, comes in. I'm like, when he comes in, I'm like, mate, that's pretty good. You know, it was a quick time, broke the lap record and everything.
Good for
Right?
the team.
Perfect.
Perfect.
So we used to get a bonus. So we used to get a bonus for being on pole.
Oh,
So he gets off the bike. He's like, yeah, everyone's patting him on the back. All the team is clapping and everything.
That's done.
All the rest of the team's like this, you know,
Yeah.
as if to say like, bloody hell. Yeah. So he gets off. His chest is sticking out and everything. But he's a Scotsman, remember, right? So a little bit tight. I know you've got
definitely
Scottish
tight. No,
heritage.
definitely tight. 100%.
So anyway, so I said to Brian, look, mate, there's no point in me going out risking it. This is how much of a team player I was for in the endurance. You know what I mean? I was like,
gotta be.
right. I said, I'm not going to go for pole, but I'll split the bonus with you. And he looked at me, and because it was a fast time, he thought,
So you don't get a team bonus?
No.
The one rider who puts it on pole gets
One
the bonus.
rider,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
It may-
fair.
it may be-
I'd definitely go out. I'd be like, no, mate.
it may be different. I was going to anyway.
I'd be like, wait.
no, wait, I was going to anyway. So,
Hold my beer.
But what I would have done, if you'd said yes, I would have split. If I had got on pole, I would have split half of it with him.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
that's fair enough.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
But he said no.
So he said he thought about it for a while. He's like, ooh, like this, you know. I said, look, if I get pole, I'll split it half of you. If you get pole, you've got pole, so no one's going to beat that,
Yeah.
right? So, or I won't go for it if because I knew it was going to be difficult finding a gap, during that time. So he was like, no, I'll keep the money. He said, and I said, you sure? You're not a very good teammate, are you, mate? Like, ribbing him. And he was like, no, I'm going to stick with him, mate. He said, you won't beat that. Like, right. And he started laughing. So I was like,
why have you done this?
so
to
imagine
me?
it.
You
So it's like all of a
motivate
sudden the limiter's gone. Like, okay. So I'm like, starts warming up.
me. Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
I'm start warming up and everything. So I'm talking to the mechanics. Right, I go out on the race tyre. I'm flying around, and then I comes back in. Kind of think, right, it's getting a bit quiet. In tyre, they're all ready. They're all prepped. Boff, tyre goes out. I'm out nice and steady, and that trying to keep a little bit of heat in it still. Yeah. This is in July, so it's quite warm anyway. And then you used to go down to the hairpin, and Brian used to do it as well. You're down to the hairpin. If you pretended you run off a little bit wide, you could get a little bit of extra runoff. It's the old start-finish straight, not the finish straight now.
Yeah.
Used to be down on the corner before Eau Rouge.
Okay.
So I go up, slip road a little bit, and then you're on it. Yeah, full gas. Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Through Eau Rouge. Perfect.
Nice. Yeah,
Perfect,
this is
right,
it.
out of there. Carrying all that speed up the straight. Anyway, it gets all the way around. There used to be a bus stop chicane before there's the S-bend at the end. It comes up to the chicane through Blanchimont, flat out in sixth gear, full lean, like absolutely
Just singing it,
on the
yeah.
limiter almost through there. Next corner, dab a brake, down to fifth, flat again. I mean, you could literally, what it's like when you get a soft tyre in. It's like,
Mad.
it
Incredible.
defies the laws of gravity, really, doesn't it?
It's all wrong in
so
your brain
you're
as
just
well,
like,
so-
yeah. So I'm chancing it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking,
I don't
I'm
care.
doing that, and I'm like,
Yeah, this bonus is
so
mine.
it comes up towards the bus stop chicane, 10 riders. 8 riders all in a line going up there, slow riders. And I'm like, oh my God, no. This is going to be, it was a perfect lap.
Terrible.
It's going to be terrible. So it comes in, I'm braking, I've done about 4 of them. Going
Slotted
into the
in.
left, I've hit one of them, used him as a berm, gone across the curbs, jumped across the curbs, hit another one, out again, and then underneath a couple. I thought, just keep it on,
Yeah.
all the way across the line.
Yeah.
Bang, half a second faster.
Done him.
Because it's a long track,
Yeah.
isn't it, And I'm like, yes.
You're like that. Yeah, what about your bonus
So-
now, son?
Yeah, so I come in, and all I had to do is look at him. I went, I looked at him like that, and he was on.
Oh, I
It
bet
is
he was.
something
Yeah, I'd be well happy with that.
Yeah, so it was quite funny, yeah.
So that's your most memorable moment then, taking Brian Morrison's mortgage money. for the month. That and the favourite part of the track, you've already answered that. You don't need to answer that. It's got to be Eau Rouge, isn't it?
No, it's not actually. Funny, Eau Rouge is brilliant.
That's the only corner in the world that I just think if anyone rides it, there's
a double left hand. Have you ridden?
No,
right,
I've done it on the simulator out there.
In your life, you've got to do it at least once on a bike. And perhaps we'll go. Yeah. We'll go. We'll never scratch around. But you come up to a corner called, you drop down a hill to a corner called Pouon, it's called. It's a double left-hander.
Oh, I've seen that. Fast in, it tightens up, doesn't it?
So good. So you start braking, you're in fourth gear, and it's a double apex. So you go through the left, and you just kind of pick it up a little bit on the wider part of the tyre, and you can just like sliding it sideways a little bit to square it off, and then hook fifth as you go into the left-hander down the hill onto the a little bit of a straight, and it's such a great feeling. It's such a great feeling. And you know what? My wife Donna, I said, if I die. Whenever I die, my ashes have got to be scattered across Pouon. Yeah. On the exit of Pouon.
Yeah, that's
when I was most happy. Sideways in fifth gear and just hanging it outside.
Apart from when you're with Donna, that's when you're most happy.
On a motorbike.
And then, so road racing, did you ever fancy?
I did Northwest a couple times.
Yeah, I thought you did. Yeah, I was looking for that. Yeah, and did you win it, or was that like the experience?
I didn't win it. I was just scared.
Genuinely, was it? What about TT?
No, I didn't do TT. I've ridden parts of the TT course on a special kind of PR thing we did. Did they not dangle the
big fat money carrot in front of your face?
Yeah.
Interested, yeah.
And I got paid quite well at the Northwest 200. I did that twice. The second time I did it on the Old Spice Ducati.
Did you used to get the Old Spice aftershave as well? You definitely did. Well, you definitely used to wear that. You 100%. I bet you still got some now.
Yeah, Chris Walker actually was my teammate then, and it's funny because he used to say, I'll be the Spice and you can be the Old. That's what he say, cheeky little bugger. So I had brake failure at the end of the straight there, so I was lucky to be in one piece, and that was a bit of a warning for me, really.
Got to be built differently. That road stuff, mental, isn't it? For me, I sat in
kind of 6th or 7th place behind Joey and Rutter, all the boys that were quick, and luckily I had quite a fast bike. So what I lost out along the ocean road bit, I gained on the slipstream. You can get such a slipstream for a long way back. I just geared the bike really long. And then just sat there and just held on to them a little bit, But it was good. Jim Moody, all the boys, And
you see that now, don't you? The slipstream, you see them. They're so far back on the screen, and you're like, and then all of a sudden you see them just getting sucked along, and it's like,
it's a crazy place.
And they're like skimming the hedges.
I loved it. It was a great feeling.
I ain't got the sack for it, mate.
It was a great feeling, but if you get anything wrong, you're in trouble, bang trouble.
That's what I don't. I just don't like the fact that there's not room for much error. Like, do you know what I mean? Like with superbikes, you can make a mistake and you're lucky. I mean, you probably change your mindset anyway, and you go, well, I haven't really got this room for error. We're not.
But nowadays, I know watch Hickey and all the boys racing nowadays. They're on the limit, and I was riding round off the limit. I could hold on to everyone.
Because we're not unintelligent, are we? Do you know what I mean? We might seem it, but we're not intelligent people, are we? Like, to get to the top in motorbike racing, you've got to be smart with things, haven't you?
Yeah, I suppose you've got to have a bit of an understanding what you're doing. But I knew
smart.
my limit.
I'm saying I'm smart, all right, mate? Back me up.
You are. It's always been an intellect. But I kind of, I don't know. For me, it was a warning, after that brake failure, because it's all
Some
very
people
well.
wouldn't see that warning, would they? Though that's the thing as well.
It's all very well. You making a mistake. I kind of knew I wouldn't make a mistake at the speed I was doing. I was nice wheelies for the crowds, and they were loving it. It was great, and I loved it. The people were fantastic. I loved the place. I've got some great friends there. And
mega, yeah.
And unfortunately, when that happened, it really kind of
put you off it a bit.
I just thought, you know what? That's my warning from the big man above.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'm going to just pull in here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. But I did have to do the second race, believe it or not, and I did that. And
did you not try and blow the bike up?
No, I did do that. I did do the second race. I don't know where I finished, but I finished somewhere 6th or 7th, something like that. I don't know, but I had quite a bit of fun, and that was it. And Merv White came up to me and said to me, like, coming back next year. I said, Merv, it's a message from the big man, and
I'm done, mate.
I'm done now, but I've really enjoyed it. It's been great. I met some great people. So.
Yeah,
and I think that's what racing's about. Really, is about people and about the places you go.
It's just weird. Like I say I've got some friends from outside of racing, and it's so weird because if you go to a track day, you've got this. You have lawyers, doctors, vicars. You can have the weirdest, different career people in the world, but you all have motorbikes, and you all have this common love for motorbikes, and it brings together such diverse people, and I love it because of that. Because you go to track days, and like the people you meet, and you end up obviously becoming friends with. It's just like and that's something again which I do thank motorbike racing for. It's like the people you meet, isn't it? It's incredible.
Yeah, definitely.
Mainly got to meet you anyway.
Yes, right. Yeah. And like people from the other side of the world, you kind of. I get text every now and then from Robbie Phillips, who's a legend, from World Superbikes and Lunatic.
I met his son when I was out in Australia,
right?
And they were like, his dad used to be a superbike rider, and that was him.
I mean, about a Lunatic. I mean, I could tell. I could talk to you for 2 hours about Robbie Phillips.
We'll get you back.
But anyway,
Terry Rymer Part 2.
He sent me a text a couple of weeks ago, and he just them sort of things, and I started laughing about some of the stuff we got up to with Rob Mack, and when we used to go out racing in World Superbikes and stuff, and when you're jumping in cars and
hire cars and motorbike races, you shouldn't actually be allowed to do it, should you? Like it's mad, isn't it? It is. We got there's some funny stories in there, the old hire car things.
There is, mate. Yeah, so we just constantly have fun, and I think that's part and parcel. You kind of, because it's a dangerous sport, you kind of have to let your hair down a little bit in other areas, and I think that's what bike races do. But it tends not to happen quite so much now.
It's bad.
But it
just
it
you'll
doesn't
get
in public, maybe. I don't know.
Mate, we do the NEC bike show every year, and I'll tell you now, the worst thing you can do is get us together and get us drinking, because it just ends up in carnage. I'm not sure how anyone ain't been arrested yet. Well, I did actually get arrested one time because of that. Yeah, drinking. He's only 17 years old. Spent the night in the cells, but it was good fun at the time.
But that's part of the problem being big as well, isn't it? Because normally if you're the biggest, they expect you to be the person that's responsible or whatever.
I was kind of on my own in that situation. There weren't really anyone else who could do what I was doing.
Enough said.
Stood on the roof of a car.
Okay.
So I couldn't even blame anyone else. But but it is funny. You get a load of motorbike racers together and it's just carnage, isn't it? But I just look at any event, like any event throughout life, and I'm like, it just builds your character. It's character building. You live, you learn, you pass that on to your kid and go, don't do that. That's stupid. And then we carry on.
Well, you just don't tell your kids.
No, yeah. They've got no choice. And now we're moving on to the questions. Yeah. So I have to finally, myself, I basically compile 5 questions, which I think are going to be a little bit difficult, not too easy, not too hard. Mate, it's so hard because I don't want them to be too hard and I don't want them to be too easy, But also,
when you say too hard, what? Well, difficult to answer?
Yeah, difficult to answer. So, right, question 1.
There we go.
Please wow me with these answers. This is quite a hard one. What was the circuit length for Assen before it was changed? Did you ride it? The original Assen?
How long was it? Not the old road circuit.
Oh, how long was the original?
But the one before it's been changed to now, I did, yeah. How long was it? In kilometres?
Yes.
Or miles?
Kilometres. Stop buying yourself time.
Okay, I reckon it was about 2.8 kilometres long.
2.8? That's not very long.
3.2. I don't know.
My answer here says the original was 7.7. So would that have been the road one?
No, I didn't do that one.
So was that the road one then? Because this was Google giving me.
No, the road one was really long.
That's like Spa, double, wasn't it?
Spa, the original Spa was much longer than what it is now.
Well, I've got in here the answer.
So I managed to get
4.5.
out of that quite well.
Yeah, you did.
4.5.
4.5 now. The answer.
Now it is.
Now it is.
Well, then it would have been. Before it would have been similar to that, about 4.3 then. I would have said something like that. Yeah.
Question 2.
So I got that wrong. Yeah.
This one, you need to get this one, mate. Who won the 2002 Suzuki 8-hour as a 2-man team? 2002. This was when it was already.
I was probably commentating on it as well.
But this weren't like the winners before this were 3-man teams, and then this was the first 2-man team since. So 2 names, 2 big names, yeah.
Edwards and Rossi.
Edwards and Kato.
Right.
Yeah, that's good though. Good that you got the
Well, Kato, I actually rode with him at the 8 hours.
Did he get killed at Suzuka?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sad. That's
same place
sad.
As Gino
where Gino crashed. Yeah, that's mad.
Yeah, but a fantastic rider.
Who was episode 3 guest of Pushing the Limit podcast? This tests your history. Did you watch it? Episode 3. He's won some races, World Superbike mainly. Absolute Northerner.
Absolute Northerner.
Absolute Northerner.
Oh, Tom Sykes.
No, proper Northerner. Foggy.
All right, okay.
Foggy. By the way, every wrong answer you have to give me 20 quid, so we'll talk that after. How many Grand Prix wins did Barry Sheen have?
Oh,
this, man, you should know this. No, come on. This is easy knowledge, mate.
On what? 500, 750?
Just Grand Prix, I typed in Google.
Oh, okay. So this is what...
Yeah.
Because he rode 125. Well,
Kianari's number.
Surely. I don't know.
23. This is right. But this was That was just Grand Prix wins. So I don't know if that was on all of them.
Me and statistics.
Statistics
are terrible.
I wouldn't be able to answer any of these.
I can't remember yesterday, so.
But I thought you might have been really good at this. How many World Rider Championships have Envil Augusta won? This surprised me. I didn't think it was this many.
14.
38.
Really?
That's mad, isn't it? I didn't know that. But they were so successful in the early years, weren't they?
I mean, Ago's bike was so much better than everyone's for such a long time, you know. He was the main man. I mean, he's a fantastic rider.
That's it done anyway. You owe me a few quid. We'll talk that after. But and then car and truck racing. So what happened with that then? Just a bit of...
Well, so I packed up bikes.
We're going to have to get you back in a minute, by the way, because we are nearing the hour. But we're going to get you back in for episode 2 because we've got some other stories to share, and I'm sure we need to get you back in the city. But truck and car racing, before we go.
Okay.
How different was it getting in a big old Scania or a man? It just cracks me up.
That was a bit different, but I mean the cars were. I think most bike racers do a decent job in the car. But I think to get that last bit out of it is quite difficult because you're carrying a lot more weight, transfer and everything like that. But you kind of, the difficult thing is you're strapped in one position, so you can't move around.
And the early understanding of grip, I know what grip feels like. I know it don't feel
You've
like.
got a much better feeling with it.
Yeah.
You've got much better feeling with grip. For instance, in the wet, I was really fast in the wet. I mean, really fast in the wet. In the dry, understanding how late to brake was the biggest thing, and how deep you can brake into a corner, and you can trail a little bit into the turn as well.
So different principles, was it?
Yes, and banging it on. I mean, if you get on that simulator you got there, you could just bang the brakes on, and because you've got 4 patches of rubber, and also the understanding of the downforce as well. So the faster corners, you've got a little bit more grip. So understanding that. I won a couple of British Championship GT races in the Porsche, and then won a couple of European Le Mans ELMS races. Yeah. So I got to a point where I was pretty quick, but it's a money game. And one of the reasons I wanted to carry on GT racing was to be the first ever racer to win Le Mans 24 hour on a bike and do it in a car as well. Because although Surtees won the F1 Championship, I don't think Surtees won on the 24-hour race on a motorcycle.
Ask Google, mate. Google give me the wrong answer anyway, because it clearly has done that. So,
but he didn't. So that was the reason why I wanted to do cars, and it was another discipline, really. So, yeah.
I'd quite like to have a guy in a proper car, because I like you said, like the transfer of skills is there, like the principles, the basic principles are there, but to be the best in it, obviously it takes that little bit more, and
you've got to be careful not to be too brave. You could crash the car really easy.
And still... The gravel with a car is 10 times probably worse because it just rips bits off, I guess.
But he doesn't hurt you. That's the
it doesn't hurt you.
It's unusual if you get hurt, So you tend to be a bit brave in the bike. So you've got to try and take that aspect out and try and be a bit analytical and technical about the whole thing. So, the top boys are really quick. I mean, I probably got to a couple of tenths off the fastest guys,
I do get that. I get that kind of thing of just, I've got bloody roll cage around me. I've got 4 wheels. Right? Yeah, send it into paddock.
Yeah, you can be a lot more brave, but it's still a skill. It's still a technical sport, and it's and you have to have a really good understanding. And the top boys are,
and they really do understand it. Yeah, and they do get that. Yeah. That's
But they all love bike races because most of them, anyway. So the car racers love bike races because they know technically how difficult it is, but also they know your body's on the line, So they always used to ask me questions, competitors saying, what's it feel like?
Why are you so stupid? 2 wheels.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And before we go, if you could give an upcoming rider one bit of like takeaway advice for racing, what would you say to him?
Patience and not to be too impulsive.
Which is hard. Because it is, isn't it? Like even when you're doing well and you get offers, go here, go do this, or go and do that because, but it's not like that, is it? You need to kind of look at, for me,
bigger picture.
Yeah, it's like, mate, these are the steps you're taking this year. Stick to it, and then I mean, everyone learns, don't they? But
yeah, and you make the wrong decisions sometimes. I mean, blimey, I've made loads of wrong decisions. If it would have taken me on a different trajectory throughout my racing career, but you have to live and learn by your mistakes and kind of hopefully you can get through it all and do the best you can and come out the other side being semi-successful.
I think that's the key thing with having like guys like you that have experienced it and done it. And when I'm older, I'll be able to give that information and sort of advice to younger kids because there is that where you just like, that looks a lot better. Like that grass is greener there. And it's like, no, mate, every team has its issues or every championship has its issues. Like it's never going to be perfect. Like, what do you want to achieve? Do that. tick that box, onto the next, and it's
It's goals, and stepping stones, and I think that it's important that because year after year, decade after decade, it doesn't change.
No,
I've got the same mindset as what you've got. I just don't race on motorbikes anymore.
Yeah.
So I can understand what you're going through and what you're doing, completely. And you'll be the same when you retire and youngsters coming on and you're sitting on this side of the podcast, and talking about your successes and everything. So I think that it's just it's kind of
it's monotonous.
It's just the next step and the snowball of life, really.
There you go, guys. That's you then. That's we're gonna have to get you back, mate, because we've got some stories. I need to hear some stories from the old days, because obviously with Rob Mack and that, I've seen some of his stories that he was doing on Twitter in lockdown. They were mega.
Yeah, he's a great storyteller. So
yeah,
you have to get him down here.
We'll have to get him down here. Get him to slag you off. He's one of his riders.
We'll get us both down there.
Yeah. We'll get a few of you on. I've actually said that we're going to do that. Get a few of you on together, like who used to race against each other, because I think it'd be so funny. Different perspectives as well. You probably all spoke about it, but certain events happening and like different points of view on it. I think that'd be quite funny.
Yeah.
So no, thank you for coming on, Terry.
No,
guys, thank you for listening in. Be sure to keep an eye out for next week's guest, and thanks for tuning in.
Boom, boom. Danny Buchan. What a ride this is, and it is on.